Hello. So today we're going to be making this river in Blender geometry nodes. This is a river. This is just a curve that we're going to turn into a river. You can draw any curve at any time. And now let's make a new scene and do it. So first of all, I'm going to start off by adding a plane. I'm going to scale it up by something like this, maybe even more. And then I'm going to subdivide it 4 times by adding a subdivision surface and simple and set it to 4. And then I'm going to add a space modifier, click new, and click the settle button over here, and make it clouds. I'm going to increase the scale to 2, or the size 2, and now I'm gonna add in another subdivision surface to smooth it out. So this is going to be this is going to be our ground, so let's name it ground. Now let's add in a curve. I'm gonna delete everything. I'm gonna go to the draw tool over here, and I'm gonna draw on the surface. So I'm gonna draw a river, so something like this. Now let's go to the geometry nodes and let's create a new one. So first of all, I'm gonna start off by converting this to mesh, and then we're gonna add in a profile curve set to curve line. But we don't want it on the z-axis, we want it on the x-axis, so we're gonna need to add in to combine x, y, and z, and add in a value, plug it into both axes, and the top x multiplied by -1. This just inverts the start value, and so now you'll have this slider that can control how big it is. So now let's resample this curve. So I'm gonna hide this plane, and let's resample this curve. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, forgot. Set this to something like 0.8. I'm gonna resample the curve. Let's see. Something. I wanna sample it according to the length, and I want to make it something like this will work. And also I want to reset, or maybe increase it even more. Okay, something like this will work. Now let's duplicate this here and maybe lower it a little bit. Yeah, so I will stick with this for now. You can change it later. So let's now add in. Now let's add a set position. We want to project this on the ground. So how do we do that? So first of all, let's spin this and let's drag this ground, and let's take the geometry proximity. So add in a geometry proximity. Plug the geometry into the target and plug the position into the position. And this is obviously not what we want, so we need to apply that all transforms here. And on the Bezier curve, we need to also apply all the transforms. Now it isn't that visible, so let's extrude it. Extrude mesh. Make it something like 0.05. And let's add in a subdivision surface to smooth it out. Now let's make some rocks. So how do we do that? So I'm gonna use all these faces, and we're gonna delete some faces, and some faces we're gonna keep them. So we can do that many ways. I'm gonna use a delete geometry and set to faces, and we have this selection over here. We can add in a random value and set it to boolean, or we can use a noise texture. So let's use that noise texture. Let's add in a mask greater than, plugs it into the selection, and now we have the slider that controls how many faces are here. And you can also play around with the noise texture if you want. I'm gonna set it to something like 0.45, and then I'm going to split the edges and scale it down a little bit. So I'm gonna scale it down according to a random value and set the lowest point to 0.6 and the highest point something like 0.8 or zero point 0.9 maybe. Now let's extrude this. I think 0.6 is a little too small, so make it something like 0.7. And after we extrude it, let's lower the offset scale. You can also randomize this offset scale by adding another random value, maybe set to something between 0.1 and 0.3. Maybe play around with the seed. And also let's multiply it by 2. So 0.2 to 0.4, maybe to 0.3. Let's add in a subdivision surface. Yeah, before we add that, let's also join this. You see we don't have the face over here, so let's join geometry. Okay, I'm also gonna increase this height by like 0.4 again. Let's add an join geometry and let's join this with the scale elements over here. Now we have these two faces. So I'm gonna then add in a merge by distance. Let's add it after the subdivision surface, so merge by distance. And also we can also increase this a little bit. Maybe something like 0.2, maybe. Now let's add in some noise. So added a set position. We're gonna need to add in a noise texture. Plug the color into the offset, and now we get this. So first of all, we need to subtract 0.5 because it shifts over. So let's add in a vector mass. Set it to subtract and 0.5. And then let's add in a scale. And this is the intensity of our noise. I'm gonna set something like 0.2. I'm also gonna increase the detail on the noise. Yeah, I think this will work. Wait, I'm gonna play around with some more values. Also, let me sample the curve. Yeah, something like this. Okay, now let's also add in some noise on the on this plane. Okay, but first of all, let me just increase, add one more subdivision on the more level of subdivision. And now let's add in on this subdivision surface. Let's duplicate this all and on the position also. Plug the scale into the offset, and now we have noise on here. But I'm gonna lower the scale, and I'm gonna maybe increase this a little bit. And now for this noise, we wanna animate it. So let's add in a position, add in a vector. So now if we move this, you can see it's animating. So let's add in a combine X, Y, and Z, and a scene time, and plug second into X. It goes the wrong direction, so let's multiply by -1. Okay. Now let's join this together. Now we did the first part. Still think these rocks are a little too big, so I'm gonna play around with the value even more. Maybe lower the resample curve to get more rocks. Okay, this is okay. So now let's make some materials. So before we make some materials, I want to capture some attributes. So first of all, I want to capture the spline parameter of this length of this curve line. So let's add in a store named attribute. So this, if you don't know, the spline parameter is where we are on the curve. So it's gonna give us a gradient from 0 to 1 from here to here. So now we can add in the spline parameter in the value, and let's name it something like x. And also I wanna capture the attribute in here. I wanna capture the attribute of how close we are to the rocks. So let's take the set position and add in a geometry proximity. Geometry proximity. And let's throw the distance into here. But we need to change it to something else, something like d for distance. Now we're done. Let's add in some materials. Oh, let's add in some materials. So set material, set material, create two new materials. First of all, first one is water. Second one is rock. Let's paste it here. Let's go to the shading tab. Now this is our water material. Let's first of all start off with the rock because it's easy. Let's add in a diffuse. Oh, now let's add in a noise texture. So I'm gonna add this factor into the color ramp, and let's pick our color. So I'm gonna make it something like red like this, and the second one is a yellowish color, something like this. Now let's increase the detail, increase the scale and the detail, increase the roughness a little bit, and the distortion also a little bit. Let's put this as color and let's view it. And also let's make some normal mapping. We blend up. So now we have these rocks. Let's maybe increase the scale a little bit, lower the distortion a little bit. Yeah, also gonna decrease the bump, something like this. Now this, I like the way this looks. One thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to decrease the, the edge crease. Okay. Now also gonna decrease this sample curve. Somewhere around this, around here. So let's view it. Yeah, now this is better. So now let's make the water material. So I'm gonna leave this principal DSF and let's add in a glossy. So what I'm gonna do for the materials, I'm gonna add in a noise texture that is animated to go down this, and I'm gonna add in another small noise texture, but it will be high scaled and it'll be multiplied by this noise. So you'll understand in a second what I mean. So let's lower this roughness and let's make it something like a dark green color. Okay, still needs some normal mapping. So let's now add in some normal mapping to make it look better. So I'm gonna add in a bump map and add in a Musgrave. I'm gonna increase the scale something like this, equal to like something like 3. And now I'm gonna lower the strength to 0.1 and the distance to 0.2. And now let's animate this Musgrave. Also, let's use the object coordinates. If we now let's decrease the scale a little bit more, and let's add in a vector mass. Need to animate the x-axis in the negative direction. So type in hashtag frame divided by maybe negative 100. So let's do it. Yeah, I think this will be okay for now. It's a little bit laggy, but yeah. Now let's add in another a wave texture on top of this Musgrave, and let's mix and let's add them together. And set the factor something like 0.2. Now let's use this factor. Let's use this wave texture. I'm gonna increase the distortion a little bit, and the phase offset is what we're gonna use. Maybe make a hashtag frame divided by -2 maybe. Okay, so it's a little bit laggy, so for now I'm going to lower the subdivision just for now, so just because it's a little bit laggy. Now let's view this. Perfect. Now I don't really like the color, so let's maybe desaturate it a little bit more. Yeah, something like this will work. Now let's add in some foam. So let's add in a noise texture. So I'm going to plug the overlay coordinates into the noise texture. I'm going to set something like 1.5, and I'm going to contrast it by adding a color ramp. Making it something like this. Maybe make it, yeah, something like this. So to animate this, I'm going to add in a vector mass and set it to add. So I'm going to add in a combine X, Y, and Z. I'm going to add in a value and set as so hashtag frame divided by 100. And let's put it in the x-axis, or let's divide by -100. And this is so slow, so maybe -20. Yeah, maybe -30. So okay, now we have this. So now let's make another noise texture. So let's take the object coordinates and make this noise texture. Do it. Increase the scale to something like 20. Increase the detail to something like 5, and the distortion something like 0.3. I'm gonna add in a color ramp here. Make something like this. And let's also animate the 4-dimensional W file. So this is like as this is gonna animate it. So let's add a hashtag frame divided by 100. Yeah. Now let's add a multiply, and let's multiply this by this. Now we have this. So let's go here. I mean, in the original, I added a neon light and added two noise texture on top of each other, but to get a better looking noise. But I don't think we should do that here, so, because it will be more expensive. It will be more laggy, so. So now we want the second socket to be fully white and the first socket to be green. So let's copy this color and place it here. And this we're gonna make it full white. Let's put this as a color. Okay, now we have this. I think we have too much of a wave texture here. It's too visible, so make it something like 0.1. Also, let's slow it down a little bit. And let's also play around with the color ramp a little bit. Now, let's add an attribute. Let's name it B, or the same name we had here in the geometry nodes. Same name in the store named attribute. So now we have this. So let's add a color ramp. Maybe just duplicate this. And make it something like this. Let's now multiply this by this noise texture. Or maybe with the color ramp version. Also gonna push this value a little bit. And then I'm gonna add this on top of this. So add, and let's put this here. Something something like this will work. Something like 0.4 maybe will work. Now I know I said I'm not gonna do it, but this noise looks terrible, so I'm gonna add in another noise texture and mix them together. And let's take the color into this color. And set this to Indian white. And wait for Eevee to load. Okay, now this is way too much, so I'm going to set this scale to something like 13. And I'm also gonna animate this W slider to hashtag frame divided by 1000. And I'm also gonna lower this linear right to 0.1. And this looks way much better, so maybe lower the distortion a little bit. And this is, now let's view it. So now the only last detail I'm going to add is I'm going to add some more noise on the sides. So we're gonna use the attribute that we made with the spline parameter after Eevee loads. You know what? I'm just gonna go to cycle for while I'm filming because it's taking too much. And I'm going to disable scene word to view it. Okay, now let's add an attribute. Set it to X, the same name we had, and let's view it. Now we have this. Let's add a color ramp. I want the sides, mask out the sides, so something like this. And now let's just flip the colors. So make the first the black white and make the white black. Now we already used so many noise textures, so let's just reuse this one. If we took the color and separated the color, let's do it, and set to hue saturation value, we get this 3 different noise variation. So I'm going to use the saturation. I'm going to increase the contrast using a color ramp. And I'm going to multiply it by this. So let's multiply them. And let's also lower play around more with the color ramp, and let's add it. I'm gonna set something also like 0.3, and now I'm also going to add in some transparent shader, and I'm gonna mix them together and set something like 0.05. And in Eevee, let's go to Eevee and go enable alpha blend in the settings. Here in the material settings. Oh my god, lagging. So I think Blender crashed. It crashed. So I'm not gonna film this one. No, I'm gonna go here and now after we enable alpha blend, you know what? I'm gonna keep it like this for now, but so it wouldn't crash again. But now I'm going to last thing is I'm going to let's see the value reached 0.03, and let's take this and let's see all the values greater than 0.03. So it's all these waves. Maybe increases something like this. And then I'm gonna multiply this by zero point 0.1, and I'm gonna plug it through the roughness. That's so you have the foam different rough. Yes, so maybe increase a little bit. And now we're done. Uh, just in, let's increase it again. Let's just increase the subdivision surface again to get the rocks looking like this. And we're done. Thanks for watching, and bye.